Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing the Reading Retrospective Tag. It was created by Pauline from Dancing Lawn, and I first saw it on Steve Donahue's channel. So I will be linking both of them down below. Of course, given that we're only in April, I think it's a little too soon to actually be doing retrospective tags, so if I remember, I will try to do this tag again later on in probably towards the end of the year when really these types of tags should be done. But anyway, let's get to the sorry about that. I'm trying to scroll down to the questions and I'm right-clicking instead of left-clicking, which is making things a whole lot more difficult. Question number 1. Which book you read this year would you recommend to anyone and why? Well, let me amend that. So which book have you read so far this year that you would recommend to anyone and why? I'm going to go with Me by Elton John, which is a completely delightful, riotous memoir autobiography. It is absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, I never really gave much credence to autobiography, memoir, outside of maybe historical figures until I read this book. This book just completely changed my opinion on the matter. So definitely highly recommended. Question number 2. Which book have you read so far this year that has taught you something new? Again, I'm going to go with The Yellow House by Sarah M. Broom, which, again, much like Me, taught me to appreciate memoir far more than I have. This is a phenomenal personal history of New Orleans and the parts of New Orleans that very rarely get any attention outside of the city, if even that. And it is just phenomenally well done. Question number 3. Which book have you read so far this year that came just at the right time when you needed it? I'm going to go with Big Wonderful Thing, A History of Texas by Stephen Harrigan, which, if you've been watching a lot of my videos lately, you will know that I have been in a significant, well, I really shouldn't say significant reading slump because that's not accurate. It's the most of what I read has been science fiction and fantasy. I mean, I kind of started this channel with the goal in mind to really bring an attention to science fiction and fantasy to this corner of BookTube, where very few-ish booktubers talk about science fiction and fantasy, or more specifically, contemporary science fiction and fantasy that are published in the last 10, 15, 20 years, rather than more classic works. But as the months have gone by, I have found myself increasingly irritated by the science fiction and fantasy that I've been reading. And I have gravitated, since Nonfiction November, towards increasingly hungering for nonfiction, specifically history. And Big Wonderful Thing, which I read about a month ago and read for nearly 2 weeks, was just an absolute blast. It just was a magical reading experience. So yeah, definitely Big Wonderful Thing came at the right time. Also quite effective for a workout too. Yeah, but I might talk a little bit about that towards the end of the video. The whole reading thing. Question number 4. Which book have you read so far this year that will stay with you for a long time? Big Wonderful Thing. Definitely. Question number 5. Which book have you read so far this year that has expanded your reading horizons? New genre, author, theme, style, format. I'm going to go with Wild Sea by Joy McCann. And Sea People by Joy Thompson. I'm blanking on the name. I should have gotten Sea People in today, but unfortunately the postal service is being weird. So hopefully I'll get it tomorrow, and then I'll show it on a book haul. But so Wild Sea really showed me that you can do like a history of science, or a history of scientific exploration, much as Sea People does a history of the study of Polynesia and Polynesians, and to search for their origins, which is a type of history that I'm really not familiar with, but definitely enjoyable. Also, I really discovered the joys of memoir and autobiography, which I have not really given much credence to. So, again, yeah. Question number 6. Which bookish things did you particularly enjoy doing, purchasing, using this year so far? Well, I mean, I really haven't done anything particularly new. I mean, I'm still buying books off of Amazon and still buying books off of Alibris or through Alibris and Book Depository. I have tried audiobooks and ebooks, which I'm not entirely sure I really should talk about, particularly audiobooks, because they were generally the reason why I listened to some audiobooks and read some ebooks is for the BookTube prize, for which I am a judge. And I'm not entirely sure if talking about my experiences with the audiobook and ebook would necessarily affect the, I would be crossing into referencing the books like that. Well, I'm not talking about the books that I read, excuse me, or listened to, that how my opinion, like the reading experience or listening experience, sort of affected the books. Although I have read some ebooks since then, so I guess maybe I can talk about that a little bit. So I'm not as down on ebooks as I have been. I mean, they were perfectly fine reading experience. I didn't suffer any sort of health issues, no headaches, no eye strain or anything like that. So it was a decent experience. I'm still not in love with the form. I think in part because having a tablet, you can easily get distracted. It is internet accessible, so you can go off on a tangent and go do something else and completely forget about the book. Or, it has a charge, and that charge will run out eventually. Now for mine it's a few hours, but so, I definitely still prefer physical copies. There's just something about them that ebooks cannot replicate. And definitely when it comes to poetry. There were some poems I read that I will talk about, or collections of poetry that I read, where the covers at least were messed up. And there were some formatting issues too. So, yeah. So, while I'm okay with ebooks, but I definitely still prefer physical copies. They will be my go-to from now on. Well, period. Anywho. Okay. Let's move on to question number 7. Who are some booktubers, subscribers, or other bookish friends that you got to know better this year through watching comments, personal contact online, or in real life or otherwise? Well, I would have to say, of course, obviously, the year is still young, or teenage, I guess. So I guess maybe watching. Well, I would say Paperback Junkie. He and his wife Zoe have they have a YouTube channel, Paperback Junkie, and they also have a homesteading channel called Black Star Homestead, where for a good chunk of late last year and into parts of this year, they would do a weekly live stream that was very fun and interesting, and I quite enjoyed that. And you got to see a bit more into how they're building a home out near Joshua Tree, or in San Bernardino County in California. So there, Steve Donahue, obviously, he makes about 5 or 6 videos a day on average, and you get to see him interact with Frida, and to a degree, him working from home and all of that. Mark Richardson, I think he's done some stuff. Sean the Book Maniac, the Bookish Bryants, Bookish, And 8, what booktube videos did you particularly enjoy this year? Oh, so many, and I'm not going to link them. Excuse me about that. So, quite a bit of booktube videos. Let's see if I can remember them. I'll go with there is the Marzathon live stream. Definitely. I really enjoyed Mark Richardson's tour of the library he's the director of. I think he did that earlier this year. I'll echo Steve's thoughts on Sean the Book Maniac's video, where he talked about him not reading as much due to the coronavirus pandemic, and quite a few others. Oh yes, and Book Olive's reaction to the octafinals of the BookTube prize. That was very interesting and very thought-provoking. Question number 9. Did you discover a new all-time favorite book? Let's haul it out one more time. And I promise you, I will try not to include this book in for a few more hauls. Okay, and finally, tag everybody. Well, so if you've done this tag, awesome. And if you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and have a great day, and thank you, BookTube, and stay safe.